The topic. So the title today is SDG goals, sustainability related to ISO standards, relevance with regulations and government schemes. So this is the background of Accreditation Day, which all of you know. Accreditation Day 2021 is a global initiative established by IAF and ILAC to promote the value of accreditation. And this year's theme is accreditation, supporting the implementation of sustainable development goals. So a brief introduction about CCC, Consultants Consortium of Chennai. I am D. Srikantan, I am the secretary for CCC. We are just an association of management system consultants based in Chennai. And we are registered under the Tamil Nadu Societies Act for the past 2.5 years, more than 2.5 years. And it's a platform for all the management system consultants and allied consultants also. So we have not left anybody. We have taken all the stakeholders into the system. So we have sector-specific consultants with rich experience, skill and competence. And our objective is to focus on industry education. So it's a non-profit organization, as we've been telling right from day one. So our focus is on industry education, promoting quality as a part of the national quality mission. We promote various management system standards for the businesses across various domain sectors. And we would like to be the representative voice of the consulting community. As all along, there have been no platform for us, and this is the first of its kind. And Shadul Juar is there, who has been the brain behind this, and we thank him. And our focus is on knowledge dissemination to the industry on an ongoing basis about standards, certification, accreditation, inspection, and regulations. So that's the brief about CCC. I request all the participants to please mute your phones except the speakers. Whoever has got questions, you can note down or you can type in the chat box. And we will have a moderating session at the end and a question and answer session where all these questions can be answered. And I hand over the platform to Karthi Tyagarajan, who is the team leader for this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, all. This session, there are 3 sessions we have right now. This first topic is mine. I will just try to address what are the SDG goals, sustainability related standard, relevance with the government regulations and schemes. Typically, the word sustainable development. This word we heard about at various forums. A lot of articles, a lot of schemes, regulations have been launched relevant to the sustainable development. You could see a lot of even cartoons are available related to the sustainable development. So what exactly the sustainable development is? What are the applicable ISO standards relevant to the sustainable development goals? Typically, what is this SDG? And what is the role of UN? The other 2 speakers, Mr. Ganesh Kumar and Ms. Kirti Dusofa, is going to address a few of the SDG goals. I'll be highlighting a few SDG goals. We will spread, try to cover some of the SDG goals, what we are address this. So let's look at this word sustainable development. When you heard this word sustainable development, what comes to your mind? What is the definition for sustainable development? There are multiple definitions available, but this is what UN considered. Sustainable development is a development that meets the present need without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. So typically, this particular definition we could see in some other places also. But I would like to hear from the participant the term sustainable development. Do you think this is appearing in any other management system? Because we practice a different management system. Let's try to hear from the participant. You can just respond in the chat box. Have you seen this term sustainable development in any management systems? what we practice. In any ISO standards or somewhere have you seen this terminology, sustainable development? It is very much visible even in our ISO 9001. If you look at ISO 9001, even introduction section, they have clearly made it very clear. Adaptation of this particular quality management system is purely a strategic decision. But this entire QMS, it's provide a sound basis for sustainable development initiatives. At very initial introduction section, the standard gives you a particular theme like that. This is a sustainable development initiative. This QMS is going to help you to achieve sustainable development initiative. So how we can connect this with the QMS? If you remember, there is one requirement 4.2, we talks about needs and expectation of relevant interested parties. Even the context of the organization. So there are many places we can connect the word sustainable development. But what is this UN sustainable goals? I'm not going to address that. Maybe the other speakers is going to touch that. But I'd like to just throw this slide. You might have seen this many places. The 17 sustainable development goals. And what ISO says, for each of this goal, they have a lot of standards. Even if you look at sustainable development goal 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure, they have more than 12,000 standards. So for every SDG goals, ISO trying to map it, what are the applicable standards exist, or what are the standards, because many standards they are developing, many standards are already being published. Mr. Ganesh is going to address some of this SDG goals, and Ms. Kirti D'Souza is going to address some of these SDG goals. I'm just picking a few goals. And also how to, the relevance of this SDGs with the regulations and government schemes. Few of the government schemes, what we already aware about, I'm trying to connect. When it's come to this SDG goal, 4, quality education. It talks about inclusive and equitable quality education. When it's come to this particular goal, we have a standard, a recent standard, I could say, ISO 21001. This is the first ever management system on education. The whole purpose, aim of this ISO standard is to improve the process and quality of educational institutions. When you say educational institutions, different type of educational institutions we have. But this standard, it's a beautiful standard which is trying to cover various types, starts from pre-primary, primary education school, secondary education, universities, even vocational, like professional higher education schools, then continuing education, even people who are doing mentoring, tutoring. So whoever in the education life cycle, this particular standard is made for them. This particular standard directly contributes on quality education. So this standard, we also call this standard as EOMS, Educational Organization Management System. If you are practicing this ISO 21001, you can able to demonstrate that you are supporting the acquisition and development competence through complete teaching, learning, research. They are using one word, learners, satisfaction of learners and other beneficiaries. When you talk about these learners and other beneficiaries, including the staff who are working in this educational organization, the standard covers satisfaction of entire stakeholders in this particular educational organization. This ISO 27001 applicable to any industry, even some organization, they can apply this within their human resource learning and development department. Even though their main business is not education, as part of big corporate, even the learning and development department can adopt this ISO 21001. And these are some of the principles which is adopted in this particular standard. I think we all aware about 7 basic quality management principles. But in addition to that, this standard primarily focusing on, they don't use the word customer, they use the word learners and other beneficiaries. And this also addressing social responsibility. We can connect this particular principle with other SDG goals, accessibility, equity, and ethical conduct in education. That is quite interesting principle they are addressing. Of course, data security nowadays, a lot of things are on data security. So these are some of the basic principles which is addressed in this particular standard, EOMS standard. And they have given, this is what the process approach to this particular standard, how we can approach a process in educational organization. So it's stakeholders like educators, employers, the entire educational organization. And the primary outcome, if you look at here, this particular approach, which is given by the standard, they are focusing more on the result of assessment of the education effectiveness. So this we can directly connect with our SDG goal, quality education. They talks about multiple stakeholders. So who are all the stakeholders part of this in a learning educational organization? It starts from students, even apprentices, regulators, governments like ministries, even some of the authorities, labor market like employer, even parents, guardians, employee working in the organization, maybe temporary staff, even research scholars, volunteers, media, society, commercial partners, even alumni. So multiple stakeholders are part of this particular educational organizational management system. So this is one standard which ISO recently launched. Even there are accreditation also available for this particular standard. So this is one I would like to address here. Then the second SDG goal which I would like to touch is SDG 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Here I'll just pick this two word, innovation and industry. Nowadays industry do a lot of collaboration, right? There is a new standard recently ISO have made that. We all know for industry, there are plenty of other management systems, quality, environment, health and safety, even sustainability specific standards. But specific to this collaboration, nowadays globalization, people are talking about the global, right? A lot of trade barriers are between the economies. So there are some standards recently ISO come up with this. This particular one standard, ISO 44001. This is collaborative business relationship management system. This gives a beautiful framework, how to identify, how to develop, how to manage of the business relation between corporates, between entities on various forums. This is applicable to irrespective of the size of the organization. Again, even SMEs, a lot of SMEs now do collaboration, even joint ventures, merger and acquisition happens across the business, right? So how to address this? This is directly connected with this particular SDG goal 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. So this standard 44001 applicable to different type of organization. Within organization also this is applicable. It can applicable to a single project, or it can applicable to a division of your SBU, or it may be individual also can have it, because we, even as a consultant, as a management practitioner, even as a consultant, as a certification body, you have a lot of agreement, a lot of joint ventures, right? So how to do this in a systematic way, how to have this collaboration. So that is what this standard talks about. Even this is only a framework. As of now, I think there is no certification is available, if I'm not wrong. If any participant heard about collaborative business relationship management system as a certifiable standard, still I have not seen that anywhere. But this beautiful standard talks about the entire requirements framework for this particular relationship management system. We call it as RMS, relationship management system. It talks about the entire business ecosystem, the collaborative networks, then your consortiums, what are the alliances we have, what are the joint ventures we have, whether you do outsource. So they have recommended multiple steps in this. There are multiple steps involved in a collaborative management system. So they have listed it. This diagram will explain what exactly this particular standard is. These are the various steps the organization can manage the relationship when it's come to business collaboration. The first step, the standard says is try to create operational awareness, then knowledge management, then it talks about internal assessment, then selecting the correct collaborative partner. So how to negotiate with them, what type of joint objective, but which includes exit strategy too. Then how to work together, that is another stages. Then how to create value, then staying together, there are some requirements. Then finally, exit strategy activation. So this talks about entire life cycle of the relationship management system. So this is another standard which is trying to connect with this particular SDG goal. And one more standard in the similar to this, innovation management. Again, this is a guidance standard, but ISO under now developing a standard ISO 56001, a requirement standard, but it is under development, not yet published. But this guidance standard tells us how to manage the innovation. In many management systems, if you look at a railway management system, there is a requirement called as innovation management. Even many organizations have adopted this as a process, innovation management process. And this ISO standard will help us to achieve this particular goal. And this is directly connected with our SDG, industry, innovation, SDG goals. And this standard talks about how to identify the innovation, how to recognize it, how to manage it. This is applicable to any organization. Even it can be used by customers, interested parties, even your supply chain. So this is again, many policy makers have adopted or practicing this particular guidelines. And this is not even specific to an idea. It can apply to a product, processes, service, model, method, any stage it can be applied. This is what the standard simply tells us how to address this. Identify the opportunities related to product, process, project where you want to innovate. Then create the concepts, validate the concept. This is very crucial stage in any innovation before you develop any solution. So once the validation is done, then develop the solutions, then deploy the solutions. So this is what they have addressed in this particular standard. So these are the standard I would like to just touch it. There are some more SDG goals. A lot of standards are there. Maybe our other tutor is going to touch few of the standards. Now coming to connection between the regulation and government schemes. We look at this title, look at this SDG goals. What are the regulations? What are the government schemes comes to your mind? No poverty, zero hunger. There are multiple schemes we have. But if you look at this, which scheme or which regulation comes to your mind when you look at this SDG goals? Just use your chat box. Let's hear from the participants. When you look at this title, when you look at this goal alone, do you think any schemes or any government regulations comes to your mind? Let's start with the simple clean water and clean sanitation. What comes to your mind when you look at this SDG goal? Any government schemes comes to your mind? Yeah, right to education. Yes, that is directly connected with quality education. Very good. Yes, Iman. Thanks, Mr. Anil sir. That is directly connected with the poverty and zero hunger. Swachh Bharat. Yes, that is directly connected with this one. So we try to connect multiple government schemes with this particular SDGs. There are plenty of laws we have. I think we all well practiced labor laws, environmental laws, occupational health and safety laws. Even we have National Green Tribunal. These are all you can directly connect with our Article 21, right? Right to live in a healthy environment. This is directly connected with multiple SDGs. I'll pick few things here. So this is what you can directly connect. Already you have mentioned this MGNRE. Then we have PMMVY, National Food Security Act. These are all directly connected with this particular SDG goals. When it's come to accreditation, yes, we have a food safety management system, right? ISO 22000. Even we have multiple accreditation bodies. In India, this is our QCI board. They accreditates. So this whole theme for this SDG goals, how accreditation supports on implementing this SDG goals. So FSMS accreditation can able to help us to achieve this particular goal. When it's come to SDG 3, good health, well-being. Yes, we have now Ayushman Bharat. That's a scheme directly comes to your mind. Do you think any accreditation exists for this SDG goal? Accreditation, good health and well-being. Any accreditation scheme comes to your mind? Yes, we have an ABH, right? Hospital accreditation. Even JCIS are there. QAI. So there are multiple players, right? So they are part of it. They are directly supporting, right? This accreditation directly supports implementing these SDG goals. And quality education we have already addressed, right? Right to education. Even we have a Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, right? When it's come to this particular SDG goal, any accreditation comes to your mind? Just now we have seen one standard, right? UOMS standard directly connected with this. Any other accreditation comes to your mind? Which accreditation supports implementing this particular SDG goal other than this UOMS standard? Anything comes to your mind? Education, quality education. Okay, I heard 29990. Okay, related to quality education. We have NABARD, yes, NABARD, right? NABARD. Even EOMS also maybe again it's an accredited standard, right? Then this is what most of the other accreditation schemes are there for supporting this particular SDG. There are plenty of other management system standard we have: environment, health and safety, social responsibility. There are plenty of standards we could consider here. Even information security. So plenty of things. So these are the schemes. I try to pick few schemes and projected here. You can connect. So this is connected with which SDG. You can simply connect this. There are plenty of schemes are run by governments, states. So there are plenty of schemes run by state governments, central governments. So these are directly connected with SDG. Even Government of India published recently, they have published a report. Niti Aayog also published a report. Even this week itself, I think they have published last week about what is the SDG goal, what is the contribution, state level ranking of SDG. So this is what I would like to address this session. So now I'll request Mr. Ganesh to start this session. So I'll introduce Mr. Ganesh before handing it over to him.
Karthik, can you hear me? All of us can hear me?
Yes, sir. I'll just introduce yourself, then you can. I'll leave it. My screen is visible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next speaker is Mr. Ganesh Kumar. He is AVP head, who's taking care of sustainability products in TQS India. He's 17 years experience in supporting corporates, multiple brands in sustainability and supplier audits. He's also a CIA certified assessor, GRI practitioner, and these strong areas in sustainable finance, CSR, sustainable procurement, energy management. He's assessor for multiple management systems, including the quality management system and ISMS. So now I leave this forum to Mr. Ganesh Kumar.
Thank you, Karthik. Thanks for the intro. So let me share my screen first. First of all, am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are very much audible.
Yeah, thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So, first of all, good morning to everyone. Advanced Happy Accreditation Day and belated Happy Environmental Day. Both these days came in a week's time. Saturday was Environmental Day, tomorrow was Accreditation Day, and today we have a topic which covers both these things, accreditation as well as environmental and sustainability. So I want to thank Chennai Consult Consulting for giving an opportunity to be here, and also want to thank Karthik for coordinating this. Thank you, Rama ma'am, Sridharan sir, and Karthik for this. So topic we're going to discuss in the next maybe 25 minutes is intent of sustainability standards and products. So there's two things here. One is intent, which I will take up because I feel the standard is pretty personal to me. So I will speak about this. What is the intent of the standards? What is sustainable development, which Karthik said, and then the goals. So we'll take around 30 minutes to explore all of this. So agenda is as below. I will give a short introduction about where I'm coming from, DQS India. Then I'll move on to this concept of this SDG and climate change, where we'll try to speak about this is not only just a standard or a goals. This is about me, this is about you, and overall this is about us. And finally, I will try to speak about a few most important standards from ISO, which mainly covers suppose SDG side. So these will be the three basic topics of my inputs today. So let's start with introduction about DQS India. I'll make it very short. Some of you know DQS is a German-based certification body. In fact, we are the Germany's first accreditation body. As you can see, our shareholding, UL is the biggest shareholder. I think you know about UL. UL is the basically an American company, and DIN is a German stand-making body. So we are in fact one of the few American and European joint stock successful organization. We are always across the globe. Let's say, I mean, more than 85 offices in 60 countries, and around 2,500 auditors and experts across the globe. We have a different services. You can see set of services, and I'm personally handle two verticals out of it. One is called DQS CFS, or called Center of Excellence for Sustainability, where we handle all sustainability services. So you saw, I'm also in information security assessor, so I also handle Center of Excellence for IT security. So these are my two areas. As you can see, there are a lot of services available. I will take some of them, and we'll brief about it in the coming slides. As far as sustainability is concerned, we have accreditations and membership towards all these things, studying about UNGC, or Sustainable Development Goals, or Social Audit with SubScan, SEDEX, CDP, which is basically a carbon disclosure project. Then we speak about A1000 for sustainable assurance, and the GRI for sustainable reporting. So this is our overall, or some brief about what is our input in sustainability. So now let's move on to the topic. SDG, climate change, me, you, and us. I said it's more personal to me, because I hail from this small town in east side of Tamil Nadu. It's called Nagapattinam. So if I say this town's name, people from Tamil Nadu, what do you first remember? Can somebody type in the chat box or tell what do you remember when they say this town's name? What comes to your mind first? Mariamman Koil. First there is a storm, cyclone. Yeah. Yes, obviously fish. So as you can see, my town covers most of the SDGs. But people remember this town for one of the most important thing is cyclones. Nagapattinam is known for cyclones. So every monsoon in my childhood, we used to stay either in a school or in a temple, because this will be very heavy and our house will be affected, so we'll go out. So climate change, or I'll take the climate change first, because climate change is more than part of us, because we are basically it's a east shore of Tamil Nadu. It's a natural port. So what is all about us? But one incident which happened in 2004, Boxing Day, which is December 26th, changed the entire perception about my town. My town was literally destroyed that day. Somebody mentioned what they remember. They said about tsunami. Yes, this is my town's reality status that day in 2004, December 26th. It is a big surprise to me and very shocking to all of us in the town, because it never happened to us. My generation, my father's generation, my father's father's generation, we are from the same town, but we have always seen the ocean as our God. But that day, it's completely changed. So it created a lot of curiosity out of me. Why this happened? So I was from the College of Engineering Guindy, so I had a chance to discuss with a lot of people there why this happened, because there's no tsunami happened with the recorded data from 1762 in south side of Tamil Nadu. Nearly for 200 years, 300 years, nearly 250 years, nothing happened. But how it happened in a single day? So when I started inquiring, one theme which started coming was something called climate change. And you can see the climate change has really impacted all the 17 SDG goals. If such a condition, what you can do with SDG goals? Maybe that time it was MDG goals, it's called Million Development Goals. Now it's changed to SDG goals. So this started a lot of curiosity out of me to understand this climate change, sustainability, and all this. That's how my journey started. So before I go on present about the standards, because standards is something which we want to implement because our customer says or our government is saying. But I want to start with intent. Why this is important? Why this is getting more relevance? So I want to also thank Triple C to get this topic today because this is the burning topic. So let me start with a concept or some small adage, because people still say that when I say about sustainability or this SDG goals, people say you are a conspiracy theorist. There's nothing like this. So I want to give us some short examples. In 15th century, when the concept of world is round came, people said, explain this. Gravity, people said, no, you're wrong. Similarly about evolution, people said, no, you are becoming a blasphemist. Now in 21st century, when we speak about this topic, global warming, because I try to share this with a lot of people, a lot of things, they say, no, this is not for me, not for my company, not for my country. So I want to say that this is little alienated from us. Okay, even big people or exceptional US said this is a Chinese created concept. There's nothing called global warming. Okay, so I want to first of all put this intent that why this is important to us before we go to the topic of ASEAN standards and SDGs. Okay, so I have one question to all of you. I am asking this question for the past 10 years to a lot of people. What is the first image comes to your mind? One picture comes to your mind when I say climate change. Can I get some answers in the chat box? Ice melting, wonderful. Any other answers? Water scarcity, okay. Iceberg melting, okay, fine. So as I said, I'm asking this question for the past 10 years, and 70% of the people said this is the picture they remind. When we speak about climate change, they think about this polar bear and ice melting. And what is the relation between Chennai and polar bear and ice melting? Because we feel this is for somebody else. This is not for me. This is not for me or for my organization or my family. This is for somebody in Iceland or somewhere this is happening. This is what 70% of people feel. Somehow this is what awareness level is into this climate change and SDG goals. But if you think a little deeply, let's take India. Somebody spoke about erratic rains. I'm seeing other side. 54% of India faces high to extremely high water stress. No need to say about Chennai. Chennai, this is always about water scarcity. So I want to give a small example. I was in audit in 30th July 2019 in Baroda, and I started that day. Next day, there's a big flood happened in Baroda. As you can see, even crocodiles came into the streets. There was a flood. They never expected such a flood. The next day, I'm in Chennai. From Chennai, my apartment had these photographs. I think all of in Chennai will, I think this is a pretty common saying. Maybe now it's not there, but at least before COVID times, this is pretty normal in May and June. Okay. So one part of India where there is so much water, and other part of India, as you can see, 365 degrees on drought, 196 under flood. Okay. There's such a big disparity between even a country like India. One place is floating, other place no water. As you know, 97% of Indian population experience severe water scarcity at least 1 month. So whether you like it or not, climate change is making a big impact to us. And SDG goals and climate change are not two different things. If not, I would say these are both are same. They are completely linked in, because we speak about SDG goals. We speak about climate change. These things are, I would say, it's a complete intervention. As I said about tsunami came in, none of the goals can be achieved if that's not taken care. And finally, to finish off my intent side, we speak about COVID-19 is impacting human in a big way. And we feel about the upcoming or already came economic crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, I would say, if you're not speaking about this climate change and SDG in a proper way, this will be much bigger threat to humanity in the coming days. So with this, I will move on to the next topic or the topic for today. I think I would try to say why ISO was very particular, particular about SDG goals and climate change. As Karthik spoke about some of the SDG goals with respect to some of the government regulations, as you can see, since I spoke about water, I took 2-3 things. I think you know now that there's only something called Jal Shakti Board. Earlier we had so many departments. Now it's becoming one Jal Shakti Board, and you can see one of the SDG goals, clean water. This is also one of our government's policy also. And as you know, recently CGW also came up with a regulation for doing water audits. So you can easily relate SDG goals with what you are facing in the country and with what government is doing. So to conclude this particular part of this presentation, I would say climate change presents the single biggest threat to sustainable development everywhere. I'm saying everywhere, including India, including Tamil Nadu, including Chennai. And it affects the poorest and most vulnerable, which SDG wants to cover up. This urgent action to halt this climate change and deal with this impacts to integral to successfully achieving all SDGs. If you're not taking care of climate change, none of the goals can be affected or achieved. I want to take three things which happened in 2015, which I will relate to the next part of my presentation. One is this SDG, which is happening in 2015, which is basically the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. The other important activity happened in 2015 is this climate action, the Paris Agreement, where we agreed that we'll try to keep the temperature within 1.5 degrees Celsius. Don't think of 1.5 degrees Celsius. For us, it's not big difference in Chennai, but I'm speaking about a global temperature pattern or a weather pattern, I'm saying. Finally, there's something called a Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. These three things are one and other merged together, where this is able to meet up the requirements of SDG goals, and that's where ISO come in to make a harmonized standards about it. So now let's move on to the third part of it, which is basically the SDG and ISO standards. Karthik already showed this slide. I'm just showing it again. As you can see, there are 21,000 standards in ISO, out of which most of them covers at least one of the sustainable goals. I also want to bring on like why this is ISO is taking up, because as I said, this is not about some country, not about some big corporates. This is for entire society. Every organization across the globe are feeling this pressure and seeing the importance to address these current threats. Because if organization wants to be available, their community should be there. There should be people. There should be environment. So they are also taking this seriously about all these SDG goals. As Karthik mentioned about SDG goals, this is about not about us. It's about our future generation. I think some cartoons you showed really showed us that if we're not able to take care of our current things, or if you see the movie concepts, I think all of you seen the movie called Tenet, which says that future is trying to kill us. That movie's concept, because we made not a good decision, sustainability, and they have no planet to live. So this theme is getting higher and higher. So I want to brief you what is SDGs. You saw the 17 SDGs, but these sustainable development goals cannot be met by individual organizations, okay, if they're working in silos. That's why 193 countries, they came up, and with 17, they formed this SDG committee, and they came up with this 17 international sustainable development goals. This is adopted in 2015. These have a goal starting from poverty to water to energy to protect the planet, prosperity, and these are all part of something called UN's 2030 agenda for sustainable development. Okay, and as we saw, ISO has a lot of standards, and ISO wants to become part of it. UN requests them to be part of it, and they come with a lot of standards. We're going to see some of the standards. Already Karthik showed a lot of standards also. I will take few of the standards which covers most of the SDGs. So ISO along with United Nations started working on this. As you saw, even 2015, the ISO 9000 came, which included the same concept of this sustainable development in the standard itself. So this is how all these people joined together. So what you're seeing here is a 2030 agenda for SDGs. It's formed by 2015, and it's interlinked with the climate change panel and also this Sendai for disaster management. So these are the three things which work together. So if you ask me one ISO standard for all SDG goals, okay, because 9,000 maybe speak about 4 to 5, others speaks about maybe 2 to 3. But if I ask me about speak about one standard which covers the entire SDGs, then the standard will be ISO 26001. This is the only standard which covers the entire 17 SDG goals in some or some way. Okay. So this again, but you'll be surprised to see this standard is released in 2010, but it is still relevant for today's or futures, all the SDG related goals. Okay. What is the sustainable or what is the standard? Can somebody throw some light onto it? Do you know about the standard? What is it all about? Can I get some answers in the chat box? What is the standard is all about? Social accountability, okay. Social responsibility, exactly. So this standard is the de facto or the first standard. Yeah, you are right, CSR, but CSR not of Indian context, because Indian context CSR is 2% of profit to be shared. We are not speaking this CSR. We are speaking about a global CSR which speaks about the real corporate social responsibility. So that's why I said only social responsibility, because there's a misnomer understanding here. Thank you. So I will just speak about the standard. As I said, this is one of the overarching standard which is directed at helping businesses and organizations contribute to sustainable development goals. That's a prime of the standard. Even though the standard came earlier than the SDG goals. This is developed with the consent of more than 450 experts from 99 countries, including India, and with 42 international liaison organizations like ILO. I'll show some of the examples like ILO, UNGC, all the major organizations across the globe for are involved into it. It is a repository of a good practice and expertise from industry, government, labor organizations, NGOs, and consumers. Okay, and this basically provides guidance on how businesses and organizations can operate in an ethical and transparent way. I think we spoke about this earlier in the SDG also. Ethical and transparent way that contributes to a sustainable development. Usually, you know about the theory of shareholder theory, where the business of business is business. Okay, but it is getting changed. They say business of business not only taking care of business but also the community. We speak about the 3 pillars of people, profit, and planet. This is one of the standard or earliest moment which spoke about those considerations. So this speaks about stakeholder theory, which means not only the shareholders, the employees, and external people like our consumers, our customers, government, NGOs, communities, everybody is covered as a part of the standard. And also speaks about applicable laws, international norms to behavior. And this KPI here is very simple. How much an organization contributes to sustainable development. And as somebody said, social responsibility, I will define this as what's the impact of organization on society and environment. This is called social responsibility. And this is the critical measure of KPI. I think you know about the ESG reporting, ESG sharing. There is a ESG metric came from MSCI. Today, people are investing based on not on our balance sheet. They are investing based on these particular aspects. So let me go deep into the standard. There are 7 core subjects in this particular standard. As you can see, this covers every SDG goals, but from organization and individual perspective. And for the 7 core subjects, there are 37 more specific issues. I will show the issues also. And they're saying it's very pretty flexible standard. They say you cannot take all standards. It's not a tomorrow we have to become completely SDG neutral or carbon neutral. It's a step by step. So they say there are 37 issues. You can start understanding RIU first of all, and then step towards how can you improve your responsibility towards human rights, about labor practices, about environment, about fair operating practices, about your customer and their issues, finally about community. So it covers everything, starting from economic aspects to health and safety, to value chain, to gender balance, to stakeholder communication. Everything is covered in this particular topic of ISO 26001. As I said, the one standard, if I take on SDG goals, then this is the standard. Just to give you some perspective here, these are the different classes. Scope 1, Scope 2, for example, class 1, class 2, like other standards. Even though it's not with a high level structure, this thing, but just to give you a perspective, class 1 is for a scope, which says what is its primary responsible standard. You can read about terms and conditions. Class 2. Class 3 defines. This is a little detailed standard around 120 pages, which clearly speaks about what is social responsibility, what is the principles? There are 7 principles here, as you can see, starting from accountability to transparency, to ethical behavior, stakeholder interest. The basic is rule of the law to be followed, international norms and behavior, human rights. And it speaks about 2 fundamental practices. First of all, understanding what is the SR of you. Number 2, identify stakeholder, or in the ISO standard jargons, interested parties. Identify them first of all and engage with them to understand how can you impact, or what is your impact on them. Then I spoke about the core subjects here. And finally, you can see this also speaks about not only doing the activities, also communicating to everybody, like what are you doing. So this is about this entire standard. Since the time is running up, I'm just I can discuss in detail. Maybe if some questions comes in the chat box later. So there are 7 principles and 7 core subjects and 37 issues are identified. So it is saying that you can identify some of these topics. Let's take this environment, pollution, sustainable resource use, climate change, protection of environment, biodiversity. So as you can see, it covers entire SDG goals out of these 37 core issues. So this is developed by, as I said, before UN 13 agenda, but still it offers more than 450 recommendations related to the main principles and core subjects of social responsibility that will help organizations to go for SDG. I just want to brief something here. Just want to give some examples because Karthik shared some examples of which classes or which ones are giving SDG goals. We speak about the class number 6.4.2 of 26,000. It is speaking about labor practice, okay, which is basically the one of the SDG we have. Then we speak about SDG number 3, good health and well-being. Class number 6.3.9.2 again speaks about human rights. We speak about SDG 6. There's a class number 6.7.9.2 which speaks about sanitation and water. So this class covers the entire. This stand covers the entire SDG goals. Am I audible? Hello? I'm getting some messages.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, great. So the first standard is about 26,001. I move little deeper. I will take the clue from the standard. 26,000 for everything. This integrates everything, like starting from quality to marketing, everything is covered here. There is another standard which takes a sector specific or a function specific standard of this, which is called ISO 2400, or well known as sustainable procurement. This is basically nothing but it's basically a 26,000 standard for procurement side, because as you can see, sustainability goals can be easily achieved through organization, because procurement is a major state. For example, big corporates, if you take most of the sustainable development goals, it can be covered if procurement policies are rightly done. We speak about poverty, or speak about good practices or everything. Procurement is a major area to be considered. That's why the standard called 2400 released, and it's mainly based on ISO 26001. So as I said, it's a sector specific application of ISO 26001. It complements by focusing specifically on the purchasing function. That's I just taking 26001 little shorter way. Purchasing function standard 2400. It draws on the same principles and core subjects of human rights, labor practices, and fair business practices. This will help individuals working in procurement to integrate principles of SR as described in 26,000 within the purchasing process. Okay. As you can see the definition, procurement is a major aspect of every organization. It not only affects the organization but also the economy, environment, and safe society. So, what an organization buys, who it buys, and how it uses the goods and services have a huge influence on everything from performance and employee well-being to reputation, stakeholder relation. And to give a small example, some of you social auditors will remember there is a case which happened in Bangladesh in 2013. It's called Rana Plaza incident. Okay, where it spoke about it. It actually made the SEDEX and SA1000 really relevant in India and Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. Which was I think there's an accident happened in a factory where a lot of people lost life because the employee safety welfare is not taken care properly. So similarly, for example, there's a law passed in Germany recently, or it's still in a drafting stage, final stage, where German law says that all the organizations has to make sure their supply chain has to have due diligence. Okay, so due diligence thing has to be done, and it involves sustainability and social things. So this concept is getting relevantly very popular. For example, currently I'm doing at least 4 to 5 projects only on this particular topic from the big organization across India. So both these 26,000 and 2,400 are really getting relevant because of sustainable procurement and social responsibility. Because of the law and regulation, already France passed the law and Germany is also working on this law. So as you can see, it's a powerful instrument. Sustainable procurement is a powerful instrument. So organization has to really use this in a responsible way so that they can able to help on the UN's SDG goals. It speaks about integrating sustainability in a procurement policy and practices, including supply chains, so that organization can manage the risk for sustainable environmental and social development. Let me put a small case. Imagine you are a procurement guy sitting in a big organization and you have 2 suppliers. One supplier is a little expensive, but he's taking care of social and environmental things. Other supplier from some other country, he's cheaper, but he is known for social exploitation. Which one will buy? Okay, so there are 2 cases. I'm just putting a case here. So what will you go for? So this is where the guidance comes in. This is saying don't just go with the quality and price, also include sustainability in your procurement decisions. That's the overall concept of this particular standard called ISO 2400. So this released in 2017. More than 38 countries participate, including India. There are 14 countries which are observed, and this is the definition. As you can see, the standard clearly says this is want to make procurement as a powerful instrument for organizations want to become responsible way and contribute to SDG. Pretty straightforward, related to SDG goals. As I said, these are the different other UN liaison offices, and the standard is completely based on 26,000 standard. Then it takes the UNGC principle, GRA reporting, UNGP business and human rights, and also life cycle initiative and UNEP. So this standard is for social responsibility in the procurement function. I'm seeing these 2 standards are getting very relevant, especially in anybody with the EcoVadis. They are going for these 2 standards in the market currently, because EcoVadis is currently pushing up the standards. So this standard has 4 basic things. Again, this is not as a part of a high-level structure, but here you can see there are 4 things. Planning is first stage. Then it goes to integrating the SR sustainability into procurement specification. Then supply selection based on this particular our new sustainability procurement policy. Then managing the contract and learn. It's a continuous process, continuous improvement. So these are the basic process of doing SR into ISO 2400. This is structure, as you can see. So there are 4 major things. One is fundamentals are from 26,000. Then second step is integrating sustainability into procurement policy. Third is sustainability procurement process. 4th one is organizing the procurement towards sustainability. And finally, doing continuous improvement. So this is the second I want to cover it, which is actually the SR, social responsibility into procurement function. So apart from this, it also has an Annex A, apart from the classes. As you can see, again, it speaks about the 3 pillars, social and planet, and other issues. So I will take another 5 minutes. I will go on to 2 more standards. I will actually again take from this particular thing. You can see something called anti-corruption here. This is again one of the biggest issues as recognized by UN, that which is going to affect the SDG goals. So the third standard I want to discuss is about anti-corruption or anti-bribery policy. Okay. Before I present this, I have a question to all of you, because this is always a common question. Do you think implementing 13,001 will stop bribery in an organization? Can somebody throw some light? What do you think about it? By implementing 13,001 will reduce bribery, or will make sure no bribery in organization at all? There's a big no and a no. Okay, there is some positive about yeah, okay, increase awareness, bribery, yes. Yeah, as you say, by having ISO 90 certificate doesn't mean we are qualitatively conscious, but it creates an awareness and creates a culture in the organization. So I want to answer it first, because after speaking about that for 40 minutes, people ask, will it reduce bribery? India may possibly nahi hai. So that's why I said I will answer this question first itself. So this 37,000 also released after the UN SDG and other standards. It is in 2016. It's a certifiable standard. It is designed to help an organization establish, implement, maintain, and improve anti-bribery compliance program. If you see most of the big corporates terms and conditions, they are making it mandatory to sign this particular concept or anti-bribery. So it includes series of measures and controls that represent global anti-bribery good practices. This is having followed the high-level structure. I'll show the structure here. So you can easily integrate with the existing management process and controls. That flexibility is given here. You can integrate with the QMS, EHS. Awareness, there will be a awareness culture, there will be something will be built in. But you cannot say that by implementing this policy, no bribery will take place. But it can help establish that organization is implemented reasonable and proportionate measures. Also, it increases that this organization is towards anti-bribery. It operates in a fair practice. Also, improves the brand and reputational, increase the brand reputation also. So, some points about the standard requirements. This speaks about anti-bribery policy. Again, it's like ISO 9001, same kind of requirements, but more specific towards anti-bribery side. So, leadership, commitment, responsibility, training, risk assessment with respect to anti-bribery, due diligence on projects and business associates. This is where 2400 comes in. Here, due diligence is on supply chain. So again, 2400, 26,000 also comes here as a part of it. Again, it covers all the major SDGs. Then it speaks about financial, commercial, contractual controls, reporting and monitoring, and corrective action. So this simply follows the PDCA of our other standards. You can see they're very pretty similar, except to saying that this is about anti-bribery management system scope, anti-bribery policy. So only the scope will be on the anti-bribery side. So last slide on ABBMS. So it speaks about three things: respond to the issues in the anti-bribery, prevent the issue. That's the first one. Detect the issue. So it's a plan to act, prevent, detect, and respond. It's a three continuous cycle of anti-bribery. So it speaks about, as I said earlier, speaks about policy and objectives, having a separate anti-bribery committee and the persons to take care of it, training, risk assessment, importantly, implementing financial and commercial controls. This is a little deeper topic into it, where it speaks about how we can able to, a lot of good guidelines came across the globe when the standards are released about what kind of controls will work. That also will help us in implementing it. And finally, having a grievance mechanism and investigation procedure when something is raised. So this is about the third standard on SDG goals. And finally, if I don't speak about 14,000, then SDG goals, environmental is not covered. So I just listed down the major standards of 40,000 series. We know about 40,001 is for the environmental management system, but it has series of standards like 14040 series, where it covers about LCA, pre-production planning, environmental goal setting. These are standards, detailed standards available in this particular area. Then we spoke about water initially, or one of the SDG goals is clean water, where 14046 speaks about water efficiency management system, or WEMS. Like ENMS in 50K, this standard is for the water efficiency management system. Then we have water footprinting. Then we speak about carbon emissions, which speaks about 14064, 14067. So there's a lot of standards available. We can discuss for an entire day, but with being time constraint is here, I love to stop here. But one small inputs to all of you. Again, you can see this is for corporates. So humble request, it's all start from us. Just think about your personal actions, starting from small things like segregate your waste wet and dry from the home, okay? Or stop using energy consuming activities and go for LED bulbs or energy efficient things in the home. So it all starts from us. When the COVID situation improves, if possible to walk, don't use fossil fuels. So all sustainability is starting from us. That's how it can start. I think you know about Greta Thunberg, who spoke about in a small child who stopped going to school because she is worried about climate change. So this is not about us, it's about a future generation. Whatever you're doing as a business and making money is for a future generation. So I humbly request to all of you to consider this seriously. This is real, this is happening. So don't think it's a standard or something. It starts from us. let's take the oath that my generation will save the planet. So thank you so much for everyone for patient listening. Any questions we can answer at the end of the day. Thank you so much. I'm stopping my share.
Thanks, Mr. Ganesh. Thank you very much. So now I'll introduce the next speaker. So our next speaker is Ms. Kirti D'Souza. She's partner and managing director of Life Giver Professional Services LLP. She has 20 plus years of experience in health, safety, environment, and sustainability related system and assessment. She's worked with different type of industries, medium, large industries, even industries like Tata Steel, Vedanta Group, cement industries, glass industries, copper industries. She has vast experience with respect to practicing these sustainability related standards. She is also a lead assessor for sustainability with CII ITC and Greenco trained consultant. She is also a lead auditor for various management system standards. She has consulted more than 1,000 plus companies in India, Sri Lanka, and South Africa. So now we'll leave this floor to Kirti D'Souza.
Thank you so much, Karthi, for introducing me. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Just take the slide share. Are the slides visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I would like to thank CCC as well as Karthi for bringing me into this forum. This has been one of the opportunities to meet all of you and meet Mr. Ganesh also. I was so impressed by his whole presentation. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us such a deeper insight into ISO 26000 and 2400 and other standards, which are so much relevant to all of us in business. And he has so personally touched upon tsunami and the relevance of it to his village. It was very nice, sir. Thank you so much. Now, if I have to speak about the journey towards sustainability, the core of all the discussion of today, the intent of the ISO has been graduating from time to time. And today, if you look at the whole world is looking towards sharpening themselves, aligning themselves towards something called sustainability. So now all of you have a deeper understanding of what sustainability is all about. I just want to give you a little perspective about how sustainability is viewed from my personal perspective and how we are trying to see that this is incorporated into our day-to-day processes. So basically, I run a consulting firm called Life Giver Professional Services, where our mission is to foster sustainable living. And the vision is to connect the industry, the institution, and the community for achieving this sustainability. Now, this is not that very easy, as all of you are aware. It is not possible the business stands by itself alone. It's so essential that the business has to connect with the community, also with the institution. There is a greater advantage of working together in this journey of sustainability. We just have a few services that we actually talk about to the clients. We talk about some technical services, some management system. Karthi has already given a glimpse of it. Some software modification to the requirement or towards the sustainability solutions, and some turnkey projects on water and wastewater treatment. So just to give you a little insight on what are kind of sustainability related topics that we work upon, we talk about Greenco, one of the great standards in the country today, which speaks very specific to the manufacturing process. And as well as the CII Sustainability Awards have been associated from 2014, having the opportunity to walk to different companies to see their best practices. So the whole movement of sustainability, how it is viewed by the top companies of the whole nation. See, when we talk about sustainability, it's such a broad angle of covering the economic, the environment, and the social domain. Frankly, personally, it has helped me to look at several things coming beyond my basic profession of environment and trying to immerse myself into the various requirements for an organization, for a person to look at the sustainability as a perspective. So basically, if you look at the NGO Connect is something which I felt was very important to communicate with the industry as well as the society, where we can interact the needs of the community and bring an understanding of those needs being met in a scientific approach through binding them with the institutions on a research-based approach. So our whole effort has been in connecting. So that's where Seeds of Sustainability has been taking a role of creating the awareness of sustainability in the community. We've been doing that from time and again. So from 2016 onwards, but informally, this is happening from 2010 when we aligned with the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, and we had opportunity to develop the guideline for a green school and create the awareness of what is an eco community or what is an eco city which we can dream of, which will have a green industry, which will have a green home, and it will have also a community which is like, let's say, an eco city, all of them together. So we had opportunity to work with artists who could concept our technical stuff was conceptualized in an artistic manner. And then we had an occasion to communicate to the community what is all this all about in a way that the children could feel it. And so this continued to a reality program later where we had 20 industries coming together and 100 schools registering for this program for a whole year, where it's called Green Nurturing Program. So that way, I'm just explaining this more from the perspective of the opportunities that every businesses have to connect with your own community in and around and see the need in the community, pick it up for implementation of what is essentially going to be a guiding factor for implementation of the various standards that your organization is prioritizing. Recently, on 5th June, World Environment Day, it was an opportunity where we could gather in and formally come to a platform. The UN has called for a decade program of restoring the ecosystem. And it is calling the whole world towards this. And it is a small effort in this direction to bring in various stakeholders, the industry, the institution, and the community. So we look at various stakeholders coming together, and I'm looking forward for the same as a contribution of the time that we're spending in understanding various standards, how all of us can come together in looking at possible restoration of the ecosystem, which is a dire need today. Is this can't be done by an individual sector. It has to be coexisted, it has to be collaborated, and then we have to look at solutions together. Coming back to the basics, Karthi has spoken and Ganesh has also given a deeper insight. I would like to just reiterate the word sustainable development was coined in 1988, where the Strategic Advisory Group on Environment, the SAGE group, was given a task to basically come up with what really is the essentiality of today. World War I and II had its own devastating impact around the globe. And there were many standards since 1947 already existing. And the need for us to prosper together was felt. And that's when the SAGE group coined this word called sustainable development. And this development, as all of us know, is something which we look forward to keep our current to the future generation, the way that we have received from our past generation. And this globally has been refined from time to time. How we are looking at achieving the sustainable development or sustainable path, the journey has been refined by experts, by various organizations, ISO, and many others together in partnership. So there was a time when this was seen as a triple bottom principle: economy, environment, and society. So how we could actually look at a business to become successful by taking all these three pillars as a basics of existing in the business world. So do not look at only profits, but look at how we are impacting the environment and how we are impacting the society. How can we consider these three triple bottom principle at the rock bottom of our business strategies so that we are able to sustain for a longer time in a meaningful manner, in a way that we are contributing. So that actually enabled various organizations, triggered various organizations to embark themselves. And then ISO has had a great role to play in putting more than 25,000, 20,000 and odd standards to ensure this sustainable development is achieved. Karthik gave a good example of a basic standard all of us are very familiar with, 9001, where sustainable development is actually being achieved. So I can say that these ISO standards are basically like vehicles for us to achieve this journey of sustainability. While we look at that, we see that SDG in 2015, as Ganesh has mentioned, that several countries came together and strategized, giving an extended meaning of how this sustainability can be achieved. And these 17 goals have been given to make the world understand what is the meaning of sustainability in these three basic pillars and how it can be achieved and how the organizations can aspire themselves to connect with these SDGs and strategize, innovate, and come out with an approach where they are able to achieve these SDG goals, not only but for themselves, but for the community, also for the country, the state, and then the country, and the world in large. So we can see that as ISO Secretary General Sergio says, that the 2030 agenda of the SDG goals has really helped us enable a path of reality towards achieving this sustainable development. So as we have now understood the role that the industry, the institutional community together can actually contribute towards the goal of sustainable development, I'll just try to give a little more example of how sustainability is perceived across the business world. So I have just given a lot. I would also share this slides with CCC for circulation. Most of them are hyperlinked. These are all case studies of how across the world, the various companies have come forward and committed themselves towards the journey of sustainability. It could be in the name of climate change or net zero emission or converting themselves totally to renewable electricity by 2030. So each of them, and most of these case studies, if you look at, are all something like 2020, the declarations which came up. I looked into a journalist who was searching for sustainability strategies. What happened to sustainability in COVID times? We are all of us in a very challenging times of our lifetime. The healthcare industry is choking. You can see that IT industry is booming because most of us are living.
Sir, and the PO வந்துட்டு இருக்காராமே DRTக்கு. Because இப்போ கூட the person who.
Thanks, Karthi. So we can see that all these companies, what happens to sustainability among this whole struggle that the world is having? So one side we are seeing that the pandemic has really impacted the economy of several countries around the world. It has killed jobs of several lakhs and millions of people, I should say. It has also changed the complete scenario of the children's growth, their exposure to studies. So there's so many changes that's happening around. So it's very important to understand then what happened to sustainability angle, what happened to this commitment, did business still look at it? So these are all some of the case studies where in the month of March, April, May of 2020, people have come forward and then declared their sustainability goals. So you can see that Microsoft is committed to see that they are globally operating with a goal of 2025 to become carbon neutral. So you have Southern Company, which is committing to become net zero emission by 2050. You have Citigroup, who is actually saying they will stop financing to all the thermal coal mining by 2030. Shell is also planning to achieve net zero emission across its production and manufacturing. So this is like not from a single sector that you can see. You can see that there is commitment coming from all different sectors around the world. Now, why is it that this is happening? People have realized that for a long-term existence which is meaningful, which is fruitful, it is very essential to see the goals of sustainability at the rock bottom of business. And so this is definitely a big example of that. So the case studies goes on and on. Even the US Congress, they are pushing for promoting the climate action, and more than 300 companies in 2020 came forward and they have signed it up for the climate action. So, and there are companies which take up single-use plastic action by 2021. Now, these are not only companies around other parts of the world. I would also want to give you some examples of how is it happening in the country. Of course, sustainability as a global perspective, where does India stand on the climate change actions, or the potential for the climate per person, if you look at the per capita damage that we're doing to the environment? Of course, because of the population and the area, definitely we are a little lesser on the whole numbers, but that does not say that we should not be putting effort. So you can see that in India, organizations like CII, CST, Greenco, IGBC, there's several other organizations who are working very hard to work conceptually from the design to operation to maintenance, appreciation for the sustainability journey of the company. So you can see that year on year, there are more than 100 companies who apply for the sustainability awards. There are more than 30, 40 companies who register for Greenco year on year. So there is a lot of trust in the companies to actually exhibit their sustainability commitment. So I would just want to take example of one of the companies, the government companies. The government sector is not far off. So the government sector, the railways. So their work is extremely, extremely appreciating. That's what I should say. Shri Suresh Prabhuji, who came on the program day before, has been very, very instrumental in his tenure to see that railways have come up with very innovative methodologies of how they can talk of the SDG goals, how they can talk of achieving these sustainability projects across. So you can see whether it is a bio toilet or LED conversion or the solar panels. So, and you can see that, put a coin and then you see that your plastic bottle is put inside and you get a coin out. So a lot of innovative ways where there is a community participation, and also you see that SDG goals are being met very seriously. So that way, June 3rd, the third paper I saw, that now Railways is working towards a target of net zero carbon emission so faster than anyone else in the world. So by 2030, that they would become net zero carbon emitter. So that's like a very, very serious target, and for the huge magnitude of the railways that we have. So I mean, moving on from the government sector, I would also want to take attention to some more companies. Let's see, Geo. They've also committed by 2035, they would become net zero. And you can see that there are many other companies. I saw 2019, there was a UN summit action plan wherein more than 25 companies in India came together, stepped up to set a new level of climate ambition response. And so this is how you can see in our country also, the movement is stronger and it is meaningful. It's happening meaningfully. So it's definitely a great time for all of us as businesses to look at sustainable future and what role we can do within whatever sector that you belong to, whether it is an education sector, whether it is a manufacturing sector or a service sector, a food manufacturer, or you are a glass manufacturing, so or you are in the supply chain, irrespective of which company you belong to find your meaning in sustainability, to find your SDGs, what connects. So some more time, what I'm going to spend is basically to see how you could relate yourself with the various standards which you will choose in this particular journey. So I've picked up a few standards, not going too much into the standard content itself, because these are standards which are quite familiar to all of you. Most of the companies are today certified for 14,001, 45,001, 20,000, 22,000, and 50,001. Maybe the awareness on 55,000 as well as 20,121, maybe a little less. So I want to spend a little time on these standards which you're already familiar with, and how we can actually strategize our SDG goals when we implement these international standards within our companies. So let's pick up a very most familiar standard 14001 2015 version. So you can see that the standard in 2050 years earlier, the SDG goals have been actually automated through a tool in the ISO standards. And if you look into the ISO website and look into any of the standard, it just gives you a mapping of all the standard that it connects with, the standard is able to connect with. But you can see that I have just picked up a few of them. Uh, of course, the connectivity with all the 17 SDG goals, more than what the standard is connecting you with in the ISO website, is something which has to be explored by the business itself, because this is meaningfully brought in by individual businesses to see how you are able to connect with these 17 SDG goals, how you are able to strategize an action plan which will drive your business positively. So there is a connectivity. You're not working for the development or achieving the goals of SDG, but you're doing business in which you are getting great response, you're getting great success by implementing these SDGs. So there's an integration of business and the goals and the standards, all of them, which comes together. That is the crux of, where you have a blue color and you have if you look into the palette of colors, so you have blue, then you have yellow. When both of them mix together, there's a green color that's coming in. So actually our intent is to see that that green color comes out. Why? Because there is requirement of a merger of these standards and understanding of the SDG, and then an emergement of a sustainability strategy from within the company, the leadership of the company, the executors of the systems within the company, to deep dive and understand and immerse to bring that green color out of the blue and yellow, and then see that the sustainability journey is made more meaningful for the company. So let's look at 14001 2015. Now this particular standard, a basic standard of the whole series of 14,000 what Ganesha has just explained. So this is a standard meant for the management system of the environment. While all of you know very clearly, this is not a standard for performance of environment, because the performance has to be decided by the individual company, what you want to achieve, whether you want to achieve the net zero in carbon, or you want to become water positive, or you want to become like, let's say, material neutral when it comes to the perspective of procurement, from where you're going to procure, from the responsible companies you want to procure. He spoke about 2040, 2400. So how the sustainable procurement also can encourage. So that way, 14,001 is a platform, is a beginning of your journey to strategize your strong environmental actions within the company. Now, while doing that, so though you have the core leading, or the core, what the standard leads to is towards the sustainable use of resources, climate change adaptation, philosophy within the company, the pollution prevent strategies, the emphasis on the life cycle perspective, and the great call for protection of environment and enhancing the consciousness of environment within the company, apart from the basic requirement of complying to legal requirements, the great opportunity of controlling the outsourcing and contracted operations. So all of these are there in front of you before you strategize for the SDG goals. So you will have to, first of all, understand the business that you are in. You have to essentially look at what is your left and what is your right. So your left is essentially your supply chain, and where you are is the activity, the physical boundary within which you're operating, and your right is your complete the customer base for whom you exist. Now, the goal of the SDGs cannot be really related with or understood unless and until you sit with this left, center, and right together. And when you build the context of your organization, you need to have a clarity how you're able to relate your business with these stakeholders that you're talking with within the physical boundary that you want to operate, and to what extent you want to influence your supply chain, to what extent you want to influence your customer. So this thought process is what is the basic thing that you really have to be looking at while you look at choosing your SDGs. Now, let's say, for example, you're looking at a target group of your supply chain, and it all depends on your business. So let us say you are in a business of water, for example. So you are in a business of selling water. So if your business is water, then what is the pressing factor for you? Where is the water coming from which you are selling to your customer? Right? So this water, the source of the water, where are you buying? Are you buying it? Do you have sufficient water resource within? So let's see how Bisleri, Aquafina, all of them thought of it. So they all looked at a perspective, yes, giving back to the environment as a basic strategy. So what they did, the amount of water that they were procuring, they made a strategy to go back and recharge everywhere that was possible in the public parks, in the farmlands, and etc., to see that the amount of recharge, what they are able to do into the ground, is more than what they are drawing the water to sell their water. So you can understand a business, how it is connecting with the SDG goal of clean water and sanitation. So their business goal is to provide clean water. But while doing this, how am I going to contribute through my business principles, to the way that I'm conducting business, to see that my SDG goals is also achieved, and at the same time, I'm also able to do a profitable business, a meaningful business. So that way, aligning my business with the SDG goal is something which is a primary and an important factor which we have to see. Now, I'll take another example of affordable and clean energy. Now, I'll take an example of a company which is generating power and distributing power. So we have a lot of discoms across the country. So, for example, if they look at this particular SDG goals, it's a little contradictory because they're in the business of giving power to people. And of course, everybody's intent is when we sell power, we have to make profits. So if at all I go and say, conserve energy, go for affordable energy, go for clean energy, now it is something which can come back to me and hit my own economics, because I say you conserve energy, then you are buying energy from me. Then how is this conserving energy can enrich my economy? So that's where I'm connecting again from my business perspective, beyond profits, standing there to see how my business principles guide me beyond the profits. So this is where I'm able to connect with the community and say, responsibly use energy. I'm going with business, the community, and the let's say you have residential sector, you have commercial sector, you have industry sector. Connect with each of these community, and then talk to them. What are the opportunities you have for energy conservation? What are the opportunities you have for saving energy right from the design in the operation? So help probably build a pool of energy auditors, allow the energy audits to happen, and then see how conservation is happening. So be an agent of ensuring it's not only the speaking part, but ensuring that this thing is facilitated to achieve the goal or the target. So that way, as an energy producer or a distributor, I'm trying to connect with this SDG myself to see that I am an agent over here to achieve this target. So that way, I mean, it goes on and on. I just want to give a glimpse of how businesses will have to try and take that factor out, the core factor out, how I am connecting with the community, with the others, and then see that my business strategy connects with the SDG. Of course, every state has a goal of SDG to be achieved. And how I am able to connect, Karthi was talking about the regulatory schemes that are available, how I'm able to connect with them and then strategize to see that this SDG is picked out and it is there as part of my journey of 14,001. So I'm now coming back to the factor of the supply chain and the customer. So especially if you're an OEM, let me say that you're an automotive company and you're an OEM, you have a greater opportunity here to influence your whole supply chain and influence your customer on how we can go with the perspective of the fuel efficiency, or the perspective of the climate action, or the perspective of responsible consumption. So you can pick up. So these are all meaningful things as an auto sector. You are able to relate more. So here, the whole beauty would be to see that how you're able to connect with your supply chain. Now, I would quote some example. For example, SKF. They're very clear by 2030. They want to see that their whole supply chain is net zero. This kind of great roles. It's definitely not easy to have this kind of a great role unless and until the business itself is able to think strategically. The leadership is able to think strategically in a greater good. So moving on, an example of 45,001, occupation health and safety. So this is also another basic standard. Most of us have been related within business, either because of customer requirement or our own requirement. You've seen that you've imbibed this standard of 45,001. Now this 45,001 is a beautiful standard when it comes to addressing good health and well-being. And it is not only limiting to good health and well-being of employees, it says anybody that you are connected with within the organization. In the sense, again, you connect with the supply chain, you connect with your zone of influence, your left and right. So when we talk about 45,001 and the SDG goals, here also there are unique ways how the industry can think about how their businesses is able to bring this understanding of the well-being. So if you're a software company, so it's not limited to the injuries over there, but it's more limited with the illness part, what is being dealt, the stress part that is being dealt, which most of us don't want to talk. All of us do face stress day-to-day living, but we don't speak about it much. But there is a lot, and there is also the factor of bullying, the social factors, which is now spoken in 45,001 so very clearly than the earlier standard of 18,001. So when we talk about good health and well-being, now it's not a perspective of only looking at bringing down the injuries or the fatalities or making my organization to see that zero occurrences are happening with respect to fatalities. But now we need to be loud and clear about the wellness, the mental wellness, about my the comfort, the social culture that is there within the organization. So we need to connect with the SDGs, which gives qualitative importance to the comfortness within the organization with which we are working. So the gender equality issue, this is also being touched upon here. Of course, from the age-old times, we see that in our culture, there's a lot of importance that is given to women, right from the Vedas and all other times. So obviously, when there is a change of, there's a transition, there is a possibility the gender equality is not really justified over a period of time in our businesses. So how strategically, see, we now talk about occupation health and safety, but how do we inculcate a philosophy, a principle within organization to see that there is a gender equality happening within the organization, right from the recruitment to the payment part. That's like giving comfort. That's also part of giving the comfort of the mental comfort to the organization's employees, that they are respected equally, they are respected by talent, and they are not promoted or they are not demoted because of the gender. And here I'm not talking about the male and the female gender. There's also a greater respect that needs to be given to the third gender and greater opportunity. So here lies the organization to align themselves to the aspect of gender equality in greater sense. So there's also another important industry, innovation and infrastructure, sustainable cities, and peace, justice, and strong institution. Now, all of them, because of the time constraint, I'm not going deeper into each one of them, but all of them make a lot of sense when business turns around, tries to connect with the community. Now, how do I bring in an institution into my organization to conduct a research? To have meaningful solution, a scientific approach to my own organization's problem. I might have issues on ergonomics. I might have issues on the indoor air quality. I might have issues on the occupational illness, some breathing issues, I might have issues on people not being able to be open and speak about what they are suffering. So how do I bring in organizations to conduct research, to be able to open it? So there is something called a mediating organization, a mediating opportunity for the youngsters to come in and speak and understand the organization problems, and then put it in a strategic manner for the leadership to initiate actions. So that way, of course, 45,001 helps an organization to define a strategic policy. So when you're looked into all the SDGs that you are able to connect with, frame yourself to whom you want to connect, in what way, in what meaning you want to connect, how you want to express yourself, your achievables or the results, and connecting yourself with the state goals and with the country goals, etc. So once you've figured it out, then you come and make your policy, then you come and make your objectives. And of course, there are a series of advantages, the intent of the standard, which is there to reduce your downtime, to comply to regulatory requirements, to reduce the overall cost of the incidents, to reduce the cost of insurance premiums, or to reduce the cost of disruptions to operation, or reduce absenteeism and employee turnover, and recognition of international benchmarking with respect to your occupational health and safety standards, what you set for yourself, for your group. So this would be achieved more meaningfully. Moving forward on 50,001, this standard is totally aimed at energy. I'm sorry for the error. It's on energy management system. So here you have energy as the core topic or the subject, where you speak of how you can be guiding your supply chain, yourself and your customer together in guiding the perspective of the source of energy and the various strategies that you can build around the design concepts before the start of your operations or purchase of your equipments, how you will control your supply chain for the strategies that you want them to align before you purchase, like the net zero strategy in the supply chain is something which is greatly being moved in most of the companies today around the globe. So I also wanted to thank Ganesh sir for bringing in the perspective of 26,000 very beautifully, because I had a challenge a couple of years back when one of the companies called in and said, we have a supply chain across the country and duty of care or duty of law, what we have in France, guiding the organizations internationally to see your whole supply chain has to be responsible and conform to the standards of responsible business. And so there is EcoVadis, there is SEDEX, and several such platforms who actually evaluate your business for your commitment towards the sustainable development goals or the strategy of sustainability to prove that you're a responsible business operator. So while that was happening, I saw that ISO 26000 is one of the beautiful standards which help me address this all issues together in one forum or in one place. And that was actually the pathway forward to build the sustainability across the organization. So 55,000 is another standard which actually talks about the asset management system. Now this standard, the crux of this standard is to see, first identify what is asset to you, whether it is people, whether it is physical infrastructure that's available, whether it is knowledge. So you need to identify based on what industry you are in, what is asset for you, and then strategize completely around seeing a management system element is built with the risk-based approach to protecting that asset, to see that that asset is available for your performance of business. So basically the asset has to be up and running. And from that perspective, asset management has been a very helpful standard, especially in power distribution companies. One of the classic companies that I have worked had more than 100 years of history. And when we entered that company, so you had transformer which was 75-year-old, where the standards may talk about transformers performance for 25 years max or 15 years, but we saw transformers there which were 60, 70-year-old and they were still performing. So now how do we really come out with a health index for such kind of a performing transformer, beyond the standards and specification? So that's where asset management was a very, very helpful standard to align and build a systematic approach to see the preventive measure, the health checkup, what we need to do, develop a health index for the assets that is very important to us by classifying it as critical assets, etc., etc. And then seeing that these assets have an operational control in place to see when they have to be discarded and what is the strategy of a life cycle perspective for managing this asset right from its procurement till it is being disposed, and how it can be disposed, how you can make asset out of even the disposal perspective. So that way asset management very closely gets into the SDG. Once again, what I want to say is more than what the standard relates here, it's very important for you to connect with what business you are in, how you are able to connect yourself to the SDG, make meaning out of it, and then put in a systematic approach further. So before I conclude, I just want to give a little light about sustainable event. It's one of the beautiful standards. There are several events that happen year on year in all our organizations and other places. So you can see that sustainable event, which is introduced in 2012, first time when Formula One came in India. That's the time when Olympics was already there with the sustainable event compliance. So the standard was just getting released in 2012, and 2011 Formula One first came into India. That's when we were adopting these principles of sustainable event management system over there, though it was a little late when we entered. A key point over here in this particular standard is you cannot really achieve the SDGs unless and until you bring in the meaning at the strategy, at the planning desk. That's very important. At the start of your event, you need to have a clarity on what is that you want to achieve through this event, how you can make this event a sustainable event, how to map the SDGs and the business partnerships. The greater good comes over here with all the partnerships that you're going to build for the event, making each partners understand the importance of sustainability, helping them understand, and they coming and telling you, yes, I'm able to achieve clean water. I want to eliminate plastic. Yes, I can give you recycled paper. I can make a decoration using eco-friendly things and something which can be used even after. So there are a lot of recommendations that your partners can bring in and bring the value to you when you engage with them, dialogue with them, and tell that this is how I want an event to be done. So that's how the ISO 20121 has a greater potential to see that sustainable event management system gives you a path towards the achieving of the SDG goals at every event that you are conducting. This was out of scope, but then it's very close to my heart. So I just wanted to give half a second or 1 minute to it. So food safety management system is something worldwide. Yesterday has been the day of food safety across the world and the celebration done. So basically food safety is something so important and close to our more than heart to our bodies, because we live at least 3 times a day we deal with food. So the connectivity of SDG is more with the objective of zero hunger. Now, irrespective of whether your company is going in for this standard or not, it is always possible that you can adopt this standard within your canteen, within your organization's pantries. It is very essential from the perspective of hygienic food to ensure that the food that you're giving, and it also can interlink with occupation health and safety, because you're ensuring safe, nutritious, and a food that is a little more meaningful to the employees based on their own health. So there are many companies who have come up with diet plan, and they give you a provision to order the kind of food that they want earlier. They give a provision for the different stalls instead of going with the cultural way of having only one type of food served. You have varieties where people can choose what they want. They want to eat only salad, or they want to eat only juice, or drink only juice. So it's an option that they have with them to imbibe safe food as well as nutritious food, and towards the lifestyle engineering of seeing that we are all healthy. So I think I'm overboarding time. So from that perspective, I just want to skip a few slides. But at the end of it, I want to say that the achievement of this whole SDGs in the organization, the greater contributor over here is the leadership, the vision of the leadership. So it's very, very important. First, the organization sits and charts out who are the stakeholders who might connect with the SDGs, and who are existing there with you to support you, to understand you, and take your journey further. Identify them, loop them in, and have a stakeholder engagement to come up with various material issues that can actually guide the organization to come up with what is a meaningful SDG that you can connect, to come up with the materiality matrix within the organization to see that you focus on the most important, the most significant, where your stakeholder is also taken care and your business is also being taken care. So you are able to come to a balance over there. And just like an example, I've taken up SKF. Most of these are available in sustainability reports of various organizations, which is available on the public domain. So this is where I was saying that they worked hard at 2017 itself globally to bring in a target of 2025 for what they wanted to achieve in 2025 with respect to the carbon neutrality. So it's based on life cycle thinking, so where their entire value chain is being brought in. So you can see, if you look at the deeper targets, they have the supply chain target also for the net zero to be achieved, not only their own businesses across the world. So this way, thinking about your left, center, and your right, and incorporating the collaborative approach and understanding approach with the institution and the other industry you may connect with and with the community is a greater need of the hour, where your KPIs becomes very meaningful, and then you can take these KPIs to measuring the SDGs and declare how you've been able to achieve the goal, starting with your baseline and the targets that you've taken and the action plans that supports you to achieve your targets. So in summary, I just want to say that you're contexting the requirements of the customer, the corporate goals, the business commitments, the audit inputs, the interested party communication, the community goals, and the company's own goals. All of them are very, very important in helping you implement a meaningful journey of sustainability, and standards are contributing factors and a great way to demonstrate your SDG commitments. So once again, thank you very much for this opportunity given, and I'll be definitely happy to take a few questions.
Thank you, madam. Then I'll hand it over to Srikanth sir for final.
Okay, thank you so much. It was really a mind-boggling session, I would say. I think Ganesh Kumar and the D'Souza has thrown a lot of light on SDG. Now it's time for the participants to ask any questions. Anybody has any questions, you can unmute yourself and speak. There are some in the chat box and some are already answered. One of the question is, what are the sectors for which there are mandatory standards? Is it anything mandatory in SDG? Other than our ISO standards? There is nothing mandatory. Is there anything? One of you can answer.
Shall I answer?
Please.
As I said, there is nothing sector specific to speak about SDGs. I'm speaking about SDGs. Is a wide one, as I said, 40,001, 40,001. These are all part of SDGs. So if we say that side, it's again pretty common. There's no sector specific standards. These are generic standards, mostly applicable to everybody. But as I said, 26,001, 2400s, and all the standards were discussed so far. Maybe something like education, as Karthik mentioned, is pretty open to education industry. So some are very specific, but so far we haven't seen any sector-specific demands. But automotive industry is really pushing on the supply chain corporate responsibility, which you are really seeing in automotive industry. Similarly, the industries like chemical industry, as I said, again pushing on the social responsibility. So some industries are pushing on, but there's nothing mandatory from global perspective.
Thank you, sir. I think most of the questions are answered in the chat box itself. Let's see. Any corporate mandate?
Hello, can you hear me? This is Anil Johari.
Yes, Mr. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the answer to add to the answer given to the earlier question on mandatory standards. As per the WTO TBT agreement, there are 5 grounds given for regulations. I mean, we don't use the term mandatory standards now for technical regulations, which are health, safety, environment, deceptive trade practices, and national security. Sorry. So directly you can see that environment would pertain to sustainability in a certain way. Health and safety, not always. But if you think of SDGs, I mean, we shouldn't be mixing two things. SDGs are the 17 SDGs and sustainable development. So if you look at SDGs as a whole, then healthcare is under regulation. There are a whole lot of people, industry, if you look at industry. So the entire industry is covered, and it's under, several sectors are under regulation. So regulations have to be on these 5 grounds, otherwise you can't regulate as per WTO TBT, otherwise you'll get challenged. And then in services, this is for, these 5 are for products. And in services, additionally, privacy is to be regulated, and it also says in the interest of public order, you can regulate. So considering all this, some of the sectors do relate to SDGs, like healthcare does. And of course, environment is directly related to sustainability. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Any other question? There is one question. Any corporate mandates or flow down the SDGs to the supply chain in India?
I think told earlier, for example, Tata Group has taken in a big way. You can see Tata has, even if you see sustainable report of, let's say, Tata Motors, or she has shown example of other, Kirti has shown example of other companies also. So we are seeing a lot of companies has taken this for making a sustainable report or assurance report. Their next step is towards the supply chain, making it green. So most of the corporates, I give the example of Tata Motors, she gave the example of other organizations. So I've seen a lot of organizations are pushing towards the supply chain. I know recently Gujarat Fluorochemicals, one of the organizations has tried it. Stellet is working on it. Or BMW I've seen on some of the standards. So a lot of organizations are doing it. Maybe Kirti can add also before information.
Yes, I would add Mahindra is doing it in a very big way. And we've also seen in Chennai, Saint-Gobain is driving it. And there the philosophy is a little unique. They give you time to prepare yourself as a supplier. And if you're not able to meet the scores, then you will be delisted. You know, to that extent, it is serious. So there is no company which is not responsible for achieving the sustainability goals with whom you can do business with. So that way, the strategy what Saint-Gobain has taken is very unique. It's a little hard, but then that's how they have defined it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ganesh. Any other questions? I think sustainability certification, Ganesh has already answered. Any other question? You can mute and speak. No more questions, it seems. You can email to us in case if you have any other question. We will be happy to respond to them. And, shall we go to the closing remarks? Okay. Okay, I hand it over to Ramkumar sir for the closing remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Srikantan. Really, it was a very informative session, and CCC always believes in spreading knowledge to the industry and also to all the government and quasi-government people, and which we have been doing it. And WAD celebration has become a signature event for CCC. We have been doing this from last year onwards, and being the inaugural session, really I must thank all the speakers, Mr. Karthik Tyagarajan and Mr. Ganesh Kumar and Ms. Kirti D'Souza, for highlighting all the SDGs and their relationship with the various ISO standards and also the accreditation and also the regulations, and specifically with the government schemes, central government schemes, and also the central government initiatives which is being carried out in our country, and the correlation that what they have made was simply fantastic. And about the climate change specifically, I must especially thank Shri Ganesh Kumar for highlighting the importance of climate change. And Kirti D'Souza was our presentation was really exhaustive, and I think there was a time limitation for us which made her to stop and curtail some of the slides which she prepared. Sorry for that, ma'am. And definitely we'll be continue to listen to you maybe in the future sessions. And I wholeheartedly thank all the participants for patiently listening to all the speeches made by our speakers, eminent speakers here in this session. And I thank all the organizers of CCC. On behalf of CCC, I extend my warm thanks and have a nice, wonderful day ahead. And also, please participate in our next session, that is in the evening 4 p.m. It's about waste management, and please log in and please interact and participate in that useful session also. Looking forward for all of you in all the sessions up to June 11th. Thank you very much. Thank you, Srikantan sir. Thank you, Rama ma'am. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank
Thanks
you.
to Jowhari sir. Thanks to Mr. Anil Jowhari for the efforts and initiating the whole engagement. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.
We should also thank the co-sponsors of the endorsements we had. We should also thank them. Thank you.
It is the biggest industry endorsement and support from the industry and the industry and trade association, sir, actually.
Correct. Exactly.
Yes. Big endorsement from all of them. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rama ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll end the session.
Yes, please.